All right, so you know how everyone always complains about that whole daylight saving time thing?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to unpack all that craziness today, the history, and like what's going on with it right now in the U.S.
Okay. Sounds good.
You listening right now are probably either getting ready to change your clock soon, or maybe you're in one of those states that doesn't even mess with it, or maybe you just, want to understand what all the fuss is about.
Right.
So that's what we're going to figure out.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. First things first, we're looking at a clock change happening pretty soon, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking November 3rd
November 3rd.
at 2 a.m. we fall back.
Okay, 2 a.m. Got to remember that. So basically, most of the U.S. is going to be setting their clocks back an hour, which I guess means we get an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah, you could look at it that way.
But, on the flip side, it's going to get darker earlier, which a lot of people aren't exactly thrilled about. I mean, personally, I think I'd rather have more daylight, even if it means sacrificing that extra hour of sleep.
Right. And that's actually a big part of why we're seeing this push for the Sunshine Protection Act.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
This act, it wants to make daylight saving time permanent across the board for the entire country.
Wow. Okay, so no more changing the clocks back and forth.
Exactly.
But is it actually going to happen?
Well, that's a bit up in the air. I mean, it's been reintroduced by Senator Marco Rubio, but right now it's kind of stalled in Congress.
Stalled, huh? So what's the holdup? You'd think making DST permanent would be a pretty simple thing to just, do.
Well, not really. There are a lot of differing opinions about the pros and cons of making it permanent.
Okay,
Uh,
I see. Like what are people so worried about?
I mean, sure, some folks argue it could boost productivity and even make roads safer with more daylight hours.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
But then there's the other side. They're saying it messes with our natural sleep rhythms, which could lead to health problems.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, there's the whole question of whether it really even saves energy, which was, one of the original arguments for it.
Right, right. It's not as simple as it seems.
Not at all.
And speaking of keeping things interesting, there's Arizona and Hawaii.
Hmm.
They do their own thing, right? They just opt out of the whole daylight saving time dance altogether.
Right. They've never observed DST.
Yeah. So what's their deal?
It's mainly about their unique situations. You see, Arizona, with those crazy hot summers they have, extending daylight into the evening would just crank up the AC even more.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So more daylight would actually end up using more energy there.
Exactly. And for Hawaii, being so close to the equator means their day length stays pretty consistent year-round anyway.
Huh. So DST wouldn't really make much of a difference for them.
Nope, not really. They've found a system that works for them.
It's pretty interesting how different parts of the country approach this whole thing. Oh, and then there's Oklahoma. They're, I guess you could say, ready to jump on the permanent DST train, but only if the federal government gives the green light first.
You got it. Oklahoma, along with a few other states, they've got laws in place to make DST permanent. But there's a catch. They're waiting for the feds to make the first move.
It's pretty wild how time, this thing we think of as so universal, is actually subject to all this political back and forth.
Yeah, for sure.
So where does that leave us? I mean, what are we actually supposed to do on November 3rd?
Well, as of right now, unless something changes drastically in the next few days, we're all still falling back.
Okay, so mark those calendars, folks.
But this whole debate about DST, it makes you think, right? We're living in a world that's completely different from when this system was first put in place, over 100 years ago.
Wow, over 100 years.
Yeah. And it really begs the question, does this age-old system still make sense for us today? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, should we be looking at time in a totally new way? Or is DST, with all its quirks and annoyances, the best we can do? That's a tough one.
It really is. It's like this ongoing tug of war between tradition and adapting to the way we live now.
Exactly.
Well, we've thrown a lot of info at you today. What we really want to know is, where do you stand on all of this? Is it time for a change?
Yeah, let us know what you think.
This whole daylight saving time thing, it's definitely more complicated than it seems on the surface.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But hey, that's what these deep dives are for. Untangling the messy and making sense of the madness.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See ya.